everybody, and welcome to another weekly breakdown by Nature of Forex. I'm Matt, and today I'm just going to intro you guys, and then Andy will actually do the breakdown. So right now we're just on Forex Factory. That is our favorite news website to use. And so if you haven't been on the site before, it's pretty simple. You just have your news for each day. So what I like to do is just show the whole week. So I'm just going to click November 8th, which is Friday, apply settings. And then here you go. Here's all the news that will be coming out during this week. Now, as you guys know, the yellow and orange folders aren't as important. Some of the orange ones can have an impact in the market. It's kind of hit or miss. You never know. But it's still good to be aware of even just yellow ones that are coming up because it might just do a slight spike. Usually it's just a manipulation spike or whatnot. But what I like to do is just focus on the red folders and the orange folders. And then obviously it's good to know. So the gray ones are non-economic, which is usually just holidays, which is also good to know. Then you can filter out which currencies you care about, but I think it's important, even if you don't trade a certain currency, to have all of them available, just so you're aware of what could happen. So obviously on Sunday, we had the daylight saving time switch, which affected us because we are Canadians, so we actually went back an hour. But yeah, so there is retail sales tonight on AUD, so that's a pretty big folder that should affect us in some way. If you are in any AUD trades, it could be a good idea to either get out of them, or if you do expect the news to go your way, then continue to hold. It's always a good idea to put stops at break even or in profit if you're already in profit. Now Monday we do have the ECB president speaking, so let's go click over here and see what he's talking about. So it looks like it'll be a interest rate kind of thing. So you never know. Sometimes when these guys speak, nothing happens. And sometimes when they speak, something crazy can happen. So it's all really important to be aware of what's going on with that. We have Chinese, some services, PMI, AUD again. So tomorrow night AUD should be affected as well. Cash rates always, even though it's an orange folder, I've noticed that this does affect the markets as well. So the RBA statement sometimes does nothing, sometimes it does something. So good to be aware of that one. So let's go on to Tuesday. I've never seen that services PMI does anything much to GBP. And as we know with Brexit, so right now nothing much moves GBP as far as news unless it's Brexit news. So I wouldn't worry too much about that one. Trade balance as well for CAD usually stays the same. Even if it's green or red, I've not noticed a huge spike at all either. Here's a pretty important one, USD ISM non-factoring PMI. This one usually is, it can have a decent move in the market, so be aware of that one. That's at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. NZD news, that would be Tuesday afternoon around 4:45. So be aware of those. Employment change, unemployment rate, those are huge factors in any country's economy. So it's important to be aware of those. On Wednesday, we just have FOMC speakers and crude oil. As you know, crude oil can have an effect on USD. Usually it's USD CAD that it will affect. So if you are trading USD CAD, be aware of that this week. Thursday, we have EU economic forecast. This is actually pretty important. They usually just speak about what's going to go on for the next 2 years, and it's a lot of sources. So, and this doesn't happen a lot during the year. I think it's what does it say here? Yeah, twice to three times a year. So be aware of that. Something could happen with that. But again, with EU and with a GBP, it's kind of we're not really sure what's going on. So always be aware that anything can happen. And then, of course, GBP news later that day at 7 a.m. These are all pretty important stuff, but I really don't see it affecting GBP too much as everyone's just sitting on their edge of their seats waiting for Brexit. Carney speaks as well. He could move something, so actually be aware of that one at 7:30. We got AUD again, policy statement. And then on Friday, this is a pretty good one. So Friday, employment change and unemployment rate for CAD. So USD CAD traders, or if you're into any other CAD pairs, be aware of this. Because it could have a big impact. So that's all for the news this week. I would say the most important ones to look out for are usually just retail sales for an economy or just numbers that are more hard numbers as opposed to just a guy speaking, because sometimes with speakers, something can happen, but a lot of the times it's a manipulation spike. and sometimes nothing happens. So those ones are iffy if you're trying to trade those. If you do trade news, we don't recommend it, entering a trade right before news. Usually it's good to wait for the news to come out, let it settle down for 30 minutes, an hour, see how it's actually playing its hand, because the technicals and the way market structure goes, it will actually show which direction it's truly moving in. And yeah, so be aware for the retail sales for AUD. I would say the USD ISM non-manufacturing, sorry. GBP, this stuff on Thursday, be aware of that. And then on Friday as well, CAD, I think this would be a pretty decent catalyst for any CAD trades. And then, of course, we always have the news and latest stories, so you can always check through here. Usually when it's a big news, there'll be a red folder. So always be aware of what's going on here. It's always good to have it. You can have it on stream, so it'll like refresh for you, or you can just continuously refresh on Forex Factory as well. So that's all the news for this week, and I'll pass it over to Andy to set you guys up with the trade.
Hi everyone. Let's get on to these charts, see what kind of opportunities we can find for this upcoming week. I'm going to start with USD CAD. This is a currency that we were trading last week. We're on the weekly time frame here. We do have this monthly or weekly trend line on right now, and we did find some support here. However, we do have a big rejection. This weekly candle is bullish engulfing, but we do have this big rejection here, spike. So we could definitely see this potentially coming down here, trying to tap it one more time. Also rejection of this previous support, which now could be resistance. However, for this upcoming week, I expect this to come up here one more time, see some more rejection before actually rolling over and potentially breaking this trend line. If we go on to the daily, we can definitely see here a nice evening star pattern. No wick to the downside, lots of rejection to the upside. So this could be a good indication this could roll back down, but now we're going to need to make a new lower low. If we go back to the weekly and grab a little Fibonacci here, Fibonacci tool, you definitely see that we're rejecting the 50% level. And we are making the lower high over here at the 38.2 with our evening star pattern. So if this candle potentially pushes up here, we can maybe look for short opportunities using some other tools with our daily exhaustion region over here, and then dropping down to smaller time frames to look for potential entries. Let's get rid of that just for a moment there. You can see here we spiked into this level here as resistance, rejected it. Now I'd like to see this try to tap this one more time before actually coming down to here potentially. We can also see that this rejection level right here was rejected once again. So that's what I expect for this week. We'll have to see how the Monday, first day of the week candle closes. Moving on to AUD USD on the weekly time frame, we have this nice downtrend. We're still in it. We had a little bit of a rejection of bounce. This week, depending on news and things like that, we could just see some potential popping out of it, but not actually breaking it. On the daily level, looks like we did slow down for a day, then we took back up. I do believe that we could see some rejections in this area and potentially come down, maybe test a third time of this daily trend line. Since this is a higher time frame trend line, I believe it can be respected. Just taking an exhaustion zone off this daily here and dropping down to lower time frames to potentially see what could happen. We might have to just look for signs of a drop or a reversal. At least come test this level first as support, or potentially breaking coming to the trend line. Still early in the week. NZD USD, one of our best setups from last week, as we were calling this bullish. You can see on the weekly time frame lots of exhaustion. And last week we did close very bullish. I do expect this pair to potentially come up a little bit higher since we're just diddle-daddling on the 23.6 retracement. Looking to see it at least come to 38.2 before then potentially coming to around 50 to 61 before looking for shorts. If we drop down to the daily time frame, we do see here that we are at this previous resistance area that's being respected, and we do see a lot of exhaustion into that area. However, the trade that we had out for last week was this right here, bullish push, rejection 1 2 3 off this lower region. We were able to find some support, and we also had the 61.8 fib. As you can see here on this H4 chart, support was maintained. And we took off, and this trade, if you ended up taking it from around here, these regions where we did, easily we hit our 100 pip target. And not much drawdown at all, 10 pips. We were risking about 15. So that's a great trade. I do expect this pair now to potentially push down, especially from the daily perspective, how it's just showing a big exhaustion. I would like to see some rejection to the downside before potentially popping up, coming up to these regions. Still early to say which way to go. Pound, we are on this higher time frame, underneath this higher time frame trend line. This retracement has been very huge on this weekly time frame. If we just take our Fibonacci from point A down to point B, this retracement is diddle-daddling between 61.8 and 78.6. It's still, in my perspective, a little bit confusing as far as if this is a full-blown reversal and we're going to come up to the upside and potentially break out of here or come to test these upper regions of this trend line, or if we can potentially reverse from here and make a new higher low as we have been this whole time here. We did respect this region of 1.30 key level. There was rejections last week as well. In the daily time frame, we were waiting for opportunities to come into these daily exhaustion zones, as shown right here, or a potential spike up into this resistance level before looking for short opportunities. We can see here that on Friday we closed like a very doji candle, looking like candle, and that, or up here on this side, we did have a doji, then a bearish engulfing, which formed an evening star pattern. So if we can form another evening star pattern here, this could be potentially a double top formation. And I could definitely see this potentially dropping to touch this trend line one more time. So sells from this region here could potentially yield us, if we see opportunity, 460 pips. You have to pay attention for Brexit news and things of that nature. We can see in this time frame that we have had some rejection looking like formations. So it would be nice to see us potentially break this trend, this counter trend line, and roll over and fall to the downside. Let me just see if this lines up like so. So yeah, potentially one more push up before rolling over, dropping to the downside. GJ, same thing. We have a weekly trend line. We've seen two rejections of that weekly trend line. Also, this weekly key level we've rejected 2 times. On the daily, we're just kind of squeezing. We could break out to the upside. However, we keep making these bearish engulfings. There are exhaustion to the downside of them, so I don't think it's ready to roll over as of yet. But there needs to be some sort of news catalyst to help this to roll over. It does need to make a new higher low if this uptrend is going to continue. However, it could just pop off and just continue with this bullish push. I am favoring a downside push first, and let's make that higher low, or we could just continue to roll over to the downside. A few evening star patterns here are occurring, so that's what I'm definitely looking for on this pair. We are in this huge exhaustion zone. We are closing underneath it. Potential opportunities for shorts could definitely be of something of this sort potentially, but we'll have to wait for the time frames to really show us. A lot of this just sloppy price action here on this time frame, on this H4 time frame, and it definitely seems like these little counter trend lines need to be broken. Prices being squished. We haven't been able to make any higher highs, so I don't know if this is really going to push up. I'm looking for shorts. We are at Nature of FX. Euro USD, we're still underneath this weekly trend line, so we're looking for short opportunities. Definitely can see a potential zone in this area somewhere, which we have dipped underneath, broken, coming up now to retest. A few little rejections. Not sure if that's anything major. I would pick out this point right here as an area of support, broken now, potentially being tested as resistance. If that's the case, I'm looking for sell opportunities. We could throw on Fibonacci here, point A to point B, right around that 50% level. We could tap up into the 61 and then drop. However, that all depends on price action and what it's telling us. It seems as if there is a steep uptrend here on the daily, and that probably won't hold for too long. We do see here resistance, and then push up, market slowing down, taking a break, still not sure. I do think if we can have a bearish day that engulfs, this could be classified as a double top, and we'll see more a downside push, at least to this region. If not, we could wick up into this trend line before actually pushing down. Let's see, at current market price, risking about 50 pips to hit here. First target would be here. Target 2 would be down here, and target 3 would definitely be down here. Let's go down, look at some more details here. It looks as if we are rejecting this level. That's struggling. Price action is choppy at the moment. However, we are favoring the downside on Euro USD. Euro JPY, weekly trend line, we're underneath it. Looks like we attempted to break out of it here, but I would consider these two false breaks, as this candle that actually broke out of it, we couldn't make any higher highs. We have denied it. On the daily time frame, we can see this resistance spike to the upside was rejected perfectly, and now we are trading below this weekly level of 121. We can get some rejection off that level and push back down into the underside of this trend line. I definitely think we can see a retracement down to at least 119 or even potentially 118. I also think that we could, if that's the case, we could tap this daily trend line for the upside one more time. And we definitely need to make a new lower high if that's the case. Just take my Fibonacci from here to here, see if anything lines up. 61.8 right near the 119 level, not super clean, however, a possibility. Even testing this monthly level, we'll have to need more data to see what could potentially be going on here. As of now, we'll wait. There could be a potential push to the upside first before breaking lower. Depends on how first few days form. USD JPY weekly, we're still in this trend line. There's this gap up here. However, in my opinion, closed bearish last week. Lots of exhaustion. Haven't really broken this level over here of resistance at all. So retesting this 108 area, I believe USD JPY could push down a little bit before finding some support and pushing up. I believe it is making a turn here to the upside. So another tap down into here would definitely end rejection off of here without making any lower lows than this fixed point right here. Definitely tap into the 108, reject, and go to the upside. Potentially on this time frame forming a double bottom and coming up to 110. If that's the case, then gold might be able to drop down out of this triangle formation that it's been getting squeezed into. Lots of rejection on the downside on this weekly time frame. Looks like it could break out. However, nothing has been broken technically, in a huge exhaustion area. Doji form looking like candle. The support, however, has held very strongly. So if this does go up, then USD JPY will potentially come back down. But we'll see what happens with any economic news. Just lately staying away from gold. Not trying to get too involved in what's happening with gold as it moves very fast, and it is a commodity, so the pip count's a little bit different. So yeah, that's our breakdown for this week. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.